The herds run in thousands across the plain. The predators from the shadows prepare their ruthless attack. In the heights, birds soar through the skies with their majestic flight. Nature has never been so wild before. The leopard mighty stalks the trees. The herds of elephants are advancing steadily. In the waters, hungry crocodiles wait for their prey. The lions, kings of the plains, plan the perfect ambush. Meanwhile, the hyenas, faithful scavengers, are waiting to claim their share. This is the African savanna and its endless war for survival. Here, each wild species faces its own challenges in a vast ecosystem where nature is the best ally and at the same time, the cruelest enemy. On the vast plains, zebras and wildebeest flee at full speed, while predators in the distance wage their own battle against hunger. In the churning rivers, life is no simpler. Water, a scarce resource, is stained with blood while crocodiles, apex predators, devour their prey. In the hills, the cheetahs, swift beasts, tirelessly chase the terrified gazelles in a race for life or death. Beyond the horizon, the acacia forests, areas of dense vegetation, stand as the home of the indomitable leopard. Solitary, cold, and calculating, it disappears into the grasslands. In this majestic wilderness empire, there is no place where animal life is not flourishing at its best. However, just as it flourishes everywhere, in a matter of seconds, it is extinguished. Mother Nature, wise but merciless, has created a perfect balance between life and death, where millions of herbivores enjoy the infinite fields covered with vegetation. And predators, bloodthirsty hunters, feed on the numerous herds. It is the survival of the fittest expressed in a, perhaps somewhat unfair, food chain. The African savanna corresponds to a transitional biome of more than 13 million square kilometers in the heart of the wild African continent. This colossal animal kingdom, almost the size of the whole of Siberia, covers part of the territories of Kenya, Tanzania, Zambia, Chad, Sudan, Ethiopia, Somalia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Botswana. With a sparse tree cover, the African savanna stretches for thousands of kilometers on the horizon, and in the distance, a sea of golden grass dotted with solitary acacias can be seen. With such a majestic setting ready, its wild inhabitants prepare for one of the greatest displays of purity and ferocity in animal life. While on the plains, thousands of terrestrial species prove their worth by overcoming the harshest adversities in an ecosystem that can be benevolent and at the same time inhospitable. The skies do not escape this spectacle of abundance and abundance of animal life. The African savanna is home to more than 1,000 different species of birds. From hunting giants like eagles, to tiny birds like weavers, to wading herons, millions of flying and even flightless birds like the glorious ostriches have found refuge in the skies of this tropical paradise. During the winter, even hundreds of migrant species see this warm plain as their temporary shelter, filling this rich ecosystem with even more colors. Among all these majestic flying residents of the savanna, there is one bird that makes a living by hard work. The beakpeckers, tiny yet amazing birds, use their sharp beaks to provide a rather peculiar service to the other species in their habitat. No more than 20 centimeters long, with a beautiful but discreet brown plumage, using its striking red beak, the oxpecker knows that life has to be earned, so it offers a personalized parasite cleaning service to large mammals such as buffalo, zebras, giraffes, and rhinoceroses. Using its functional beak as a working tool, this bird will rummage through the fur of its hosts, devouring ticks, mites, flies, and other insects. Also, if the opportunity arises, the beakpecker will perform a thorough ear cleaning, taking with it a tasty morsel of earwax. Since the labors of this hardworking bird bring important benefits to its hosts, the large mammals do not show the slightest resistance to its presence and let the little bird do its job. This is a real win-win for both species. A special case occurs when animals with horn wounds, scratches, or why not the savage bite of a lion arrive in the domain of the oxpecker. Here, this bird has a new mission: to keep the wound clean. Using its versatile beak like a scalpel, the beakbill prepares to remove the dead tissue that collects in the wound. This helpful bird also prevents blowflies from joining the feast of an open wound by devouring all the insects attracted by the unmistakable smell of blood. In this way, it takes a not inconsiderable portion of its host's flesh while helping it to heal faster and prevent infection. But their work in this violent ecosystem is not limited to caring for the lucky injured who live to tell the tale. When ruthless felines stalk their host, oxpeckers, with the help of their developed sense of sight and hearing, are able to predict attacks. And by emitting vocalizations or becoming restless, they warn buffalo, deer, wildebeest, or giraffe of the impending ambush, enabling them to make a swift retreat and foil the predator's plans. In spite of the beaked owl's alarm, the big cats have sometimes left no loose ends, and with a lethal attack from several directions, surround their victim, who has nothing to do but to open himself to the warm embrace of death, represented in the jaws of a beast. When this happens, the oxpecker has no choice but to abandon what until then had been a comfortable host. Horrified, but at the same time accustomed to the harshness of life in the savanna, this bird will look for a new large mammal that requires its services. However, being such a small bird, the oxpecker cannot be neglected. After a long day flying across the savanna helping large mammals with their grooming and wound care, the bird must touch down. Here, genace, snakes, and jackals are often on the prowl and do not spare the life of the officious oxpecker. Not even the heights are a safe place. When the fierce hawks, masters of the sky showing their superiority, seize the little hawks with their sharp talons, they are guaranteed a trip to a better life, while the oxpeckers wage their own battle for survival, seeking sustenance on the backs of the large mammals and escaping from their pursuers far away on the plains. Herds of elephants march by, crushing everything in their path, weighing up to 10 tons with a thick skin of up to 3 centimeters and 2 sharp spears of more than 1 meter in the shape of white tusks. The African elephant is a mighty titan in the midst of this unforgiving ecosystem. When these giants appear on the scene, the savanna rumbles and the birds flee, for they know what is coming. Despite their colossal size and other conditions to be the terror of many other species, most of the time African elephants choose to live a relatively peaceful life. This may be one of the benefits of holding the position of the world's largest terrestrial living being. In the midst of a savanna where chaos and destruction reign, herds of elephants use their gigantic size to escape the radar of predators. In the face of such a mammal, not even the appetite of the most voracious felines could match the majesty of these enormous living mountains. Although, in a way, these gray giants have decided to look away from the violent routine on the plains and live a peaceful life devouring acacia trees. Trouble is often what seeks out these usually quiet beasts. While a majestic elephant weighing up to 10 tons is beyond the hunting capabilities of almost all predators, life on the savanna is merciless, and for many cats, calves are an easy target. The lions, the flagrant kings of the savanna, will never pass up the opportunity to hunt a substantial cub weighing up to 150 kilograms. With such a vast amount of meat in the form of an innocent and not at all ferocious little one, and prey becoming increasingly scarce, hunger clouds the felines' minds and they venture out to hunt the defenseless cub. With dozens of felines stalking the gentle prey, the prey has no chance of escaping, and the lions guarantee a hearty meal for the entire pride. Of course, the mother elephant does not take the loss of a child at the hands of the felines very well. After carrying her baby for 22 months in her womb, they have taken everything she had, and more than justice, she wants revenge. After a rudimentary funeral in which the elephants cover the remains of the young elephant with foliage, and the mother caresses the memories of her son with her trunk, the savannah will have to hold its breath. An elephant never forgets. And with a thirst for revenge, the giants pounce with their huge tusks like spears against those who were their executioners. There is nothing even the kings of the savannah can do against such a massive attack. Not even their sharp claws are able to pierce the thick skin of these giants. Amidst the chaos of battle, the mother satisfies her desires and avenges the memory of her son. However, nothing can bring her son back, and the wound in her heart can never be healed. Although with one less member, the elephant herd must continue its long trek across the savannah, but perhaps now, with a more hostile attitude towards the unknown. After walking thousands of kilometers under the scorching African sun, which turns the green grass into burning flames, the elephants approach the few wetlands that Mother Nature, in a small show of clemency, has created. With an adult elephant drinking up to 250 liters of water per day, these wetlands are a hope for life in the middle of an inhospitable plain. At the sight of these tributaries, the mother elephant cannot help but think of her calf and how it enjoyed the refreshing baths. Sin embargo, ni siquiera esta puede descuidarse, pues de esas mismas aguas que dan la vida, en tan solo segundos emergen de las profundidades, gigantes cocodrilos acorazados. Although these masters of the waters plan an infallible strategy to hunt their prey, the truth is that against the gigantic mammals of up to 10,000 kilograms, the reptiles do not have the slightest chance of victory. In this confrontation, the crocodiles either let the elephants enjoy their domain in peace, or they risk being stepped on and their spines snapped in two as if by a small branch. Leaving aside the threats of being crushed by these unexpected and thirsty visitors, the crocodiles of the African savanna are the lords and masters of the waters. With a solid armor made of bony scales, a long tail that strikes like a whip, and a bite capable of crushing bones in the choppy waters of the savannah, there is no combatant who will emerge unscathed from a duel against this voracious reptile. For most species that dare to dive into the waters, the African crocodile represents the personification of death itself, in the eyes of a ruthless reptile of more than 4 meters. South of this river, where crocodiles are self-proclaimed kings of the savanna waters, hundreds of thousands of wildebeest, on the way to their great migration, are preparing for a major feat. After traveling strenuous distances in pursuit of rainfall, the river crossing is the only obstacle separating them from a promised land covered with grassy fields and abundant wetlands with fresh water. Of course, the river is not alone. After thousands of years of traveling this long road, the wildebeest know well that the agitated waters hide the ruthless reptiles beneath them. They are patient, but at the same time bloodthirsty, waiting for the precise moment to open their enormous jaws and the ambush to begin. Although at the beginning of the march, the ground rumbles with thousands of ungulates walking steadily towards the crossing of death. As the riverbank gets closer and closer, tension is felt in the air, legs begin to tremble, and no one wants to be the first to dive into the agitated waters, which they know are infested with crocodiles. With each passing hour, hundreds and even thousands of wildebeest arrive, crowding the banks of the river. While the mammals look across the crossing to the green plains full of grass, the reptiles, hidden, with only their eyes in sight, watch the substantial feast that is about to come. With the entire herd passively pushing forward, the inevitable happens, and the first ungulates fall straight into the water. With this, as if on cue, hundreds of wildebeest plunge into the dark waters. The crocodiles, with nothing more to wait for, begin their bloody attack. Although outnumbered, there are no fiercer creatures in the water, so with every bite they take, a wildebeest has passed away. Each reptile, carrying its prey deep into the river, causes the water to finish the job by drowning the mammals. Even if the crossing is only a few meters, it is certain that the ungulates see these dangerous waters as miles away, where every centimeter they advance the possibility of a voracious crocodile emerging from the depths is latent. In this combat, the fallen are counted in hundreds, but thousands against all odds manage to reach the coveted shore on the other side of the river, where miles of green plains await them. For the wildebeest that made it across the river, the journey was a success, and they will be able to spend the next few months enjoying a personal Eden. However, for those who perished and found themselves gutted at the bottom of the river, the plan was an unprecedented catastrophe. On the other side of the scale are the now satisfied crocodiles, who have had a meal of kings, all without leaving the comfort of the water. Although, despite countless losses, the surviving wildebeest feel victorious, it is not all good news. Just as the rains have created the succulent grassy plains where they now graze, in a few months, as a result of droughts on their side of the river, they will have to cross these waters again. And if they can be sure of anything, it is that the crocodiles will be waiting for them with their empty stomachs to emerge again and decimate the herds. Although the voracious reptiles represent by far the greatest danger at these crossings, amidst all the chaos in the herds and the turbulent waters, the river claims its own victims. Not even the best swimmers can cross these mighty narrows undeterred, knowing that they are in the sights of one of the most voracious predators of the African savanna. The carcasses of the wildebeest that are not eaten by the wild crocodiles end up following the current downstream, where they become the perfect food for some of the most efficient scavengers in the animal kingdom. For the white-backed vulture, if there's anything better than a meal, it's a meal it didn't have to work for. With a wingspan of more than 2 meters and a large beak ready to tear meat, this bird is one of the imposing scavengers of the African savanna. The white-backed vulture is a firm believer that while some mourn, others sell handkerchiefs, and while the victims of fierce clashes are everywhere on the savanna, this bird does the dirty work by removing the remains of carcasses after only minutes of passing away. Soaring through the skies with its peculiar glide, the vulture is a sign of imminent death for the inhabitants of this infinite plain. Like a prophet of disaster, when the white-backed vulture shows up, the victims are not long in coming. When large predators have set their sights on prey, this scavenger par excellence is among the first spectators to show up to witness the act of pure savagery. Of course, despite being a ruthless opportunist, the vulture knows well that when large predators do the dirty work, it is unlikely to succeed in taking such coveted prey from these ferocious beasts, so it patiently waits for the leftovers. Of course, sometimes when the scorching heat and the scarcity of food and water punish the plains, and the fallen are counted in thousands, for the white-backed vulture it is a dream come true. Upon spotting the carcass of an animal, the bird will circle in the sky as a signal to its conspecifics to come to the feast. Within minutes, the flock leaves nothing but the memories of the deceased. The vulture's haste to get rid of the carcass, more than for appetite, is a survival mechanism. These birds know well that they are not the only scavengers of the savanna, and that as soon as an animal passes into the underworld, a race against the clock begins in which the rest of the opportunists will come to claim their share. In this long list of guests that will make firewood from the fallen tree, along with hyenas and hawks, the black-backed jackals cannot be missing. These wild canines surround the unfortunate corpse that has become a bone of contention in one of the confrontations in the savanna. Arriving from various directions, jackals also join the feast. While the vultures are not very happy to have to share, it is the price they have to pay for not having been quick enough to devour the prey. With a height of no more than 40 centimeters and a weight of up to 12 kilograms, for jackals, dogs quite similar to a German shepherd, but small in size, the carcass of a large mammal is like a gift from heaven. Although they have to fight for a piece of meat with the voracious vultures, the pack, working in synchronization, manages to get a good portion of carrion from the birds. This opportunistic carnivore behavior in jackals is nothing new, so they also have their tricks up their sleeves that help them take advantage of these goodwill gestures from Mother Nature. As soon as a mammal has passed to eternal rest, using their trained sense of smell, these canines detect the, for them, exquisite smell of fresh meat, and the pack departs for the location. Of course, having the disadvantage of moving overland, these wild dogs are accustomed to not being the first to get to the carcasses, so they must fight for what they consider theirs by right. Arriving at these feasts in groups of up to 6 dogs, the jackals advance little by little until they reach the first row of the feast, where, without wasting a second, they will use their savage bite to take their piece of the banquet. Of course, on the way, more than one vulture will complain and try to chase the canids away with its sharp beak and maneuvering with its big wings, but nothing that the black-backed jackals can't handle. For those atypical days when the savanna is not flooded with death, with hundreds of victims, and the jackals do not sniff exquisite carrion for miles around, these canines pull an unexpected card from under their sleeve, because, besides having a declared love for meat, jackals are omnivores, being able to feed without problems on fruits, berries, and herbs. Of course, no jackal in its right mind would rather eat some berries than a juicy steak. So, before going momentarily vegan, they would rather take advantage of their hunting skills and do the work of bringing the food to the table themselves. Given their small size, when this happens, large mammals have little to fear. The terror this time is felt by smaller prey, such as mice, squirrels, shrews, flightless birds, and the tender, defenseless young of antelopes. By tormenting rodent colonies with their bites, jackals keep these populations under control, doing an excellent job as professional exterminators. Aside from the fact that these small snacks are highly nutritious, it is much more profitable for the packs to participate in the feast sponsored by the cruelty and ferocity of the big cats. Fortunately for these canines, they have fallen from grace in the eyes of the kings of the savanna. Jackals often live surprisingly close to lion prides, which are not bothered by their presence, and take advantage of this for obvious profit. When herds of these big cats go hunting, jackals know that food is assured. They just have to be skillful enough to manage to take their share without disturbing, and thus get a juicy meal without the slightest effort. Although lions have, to some extent, accepted living with jackals in the vicinity of their kingdom, Some other big cat species will not give these opportunistic canines the same treatment. For the majestic leopard, for a jackal to intrude on its food is an offense of grave proportions, which can have no punishment other than death. The leopard is one of those species born for the hostile life of the African savanna, and which feeds on all the terror it instills in its victims. With a weight of up to 90 kilograms in the case of males, a sharp set of retractable claws on their paws, and a ferocious bite, when this feline appears on the scene, prey flee in terror, knowing what the presence of this beast on the horizon portends. While other big cats of the plains live in community and support each other, the leopard has decided to spend his days in complete solitude, where no close relative can witness the calamities he is about to inflict on the rest of the species in his punished habitat. While this giant cat has all the conditions to hunt large prey, the leopard does not limit its relentless attacks to only the large mammals of the savanna. Why lash out with your fearsome bite on just a few, when you can spread chaos and fear to every species in the ecosystem? From tiny dung beetles to mammals such as hyraxes, hares, rodents, large antelopes, and even other carnivores, the jackal begins to consider whether it was a good idea to approach this ferocious predator. Like a seasoned hunter, from incessantly scurrying his prey across the savanna, the leopard, a cold and calculating killer, carefully plans his ambushes as he lies hidden in the thick vegetation. Thanks to its elegant, but at the same time efficient natural camouflage of golden color with black rosettes, this feline can stalk its prey just meters away, without the prey even noticing that death is breathing down their necks. When the leopard sees the perfect opportunity, after hours of hiding in its stealth, this cruel predator launches itself at full speed at its unfortunate prey. When it comes to hunting, it doesn't play games and aims straight for its victims' necks. With the help of its sharp claws, the feline clings to the corpulence of large prey, while its powerful jaw does the work of suffocating them. When it succeeds in embedding its colossal teeth in its victim's neck, all attempts at survival are futile. It is only a matter of seconds before the prey runs out of air and succumbs to the severity of its wounds. After taking the life of an innocent mammal in just seconds, the leopard is cunning and knows that even though it is a dominant predator, the news of its successful hunt has already spread like wildfire for dozens of kilometers across the plains. If you want to protect your substantial feast from scavengers, and even other big cats interested in such appetizing prey, you'll have to move fast. To guard its dinner from hyenas, jackals, vultures, and even lions, the leopard sees the treetops as its perfect larder. The combination of being a professional tree climber, with its colossal strength, allows the feline to carry even large prey to great heights. With shocking ease, it drags impalas and heavy gazelles to the safety of the branches, where, try as they might, scavengers will not be able to take their prey. With provisions secured for a few days, the leopard usually returns to its stealthy routine, hiding among the vegetation and watching life in the savanna go on. However, with its prey sheltered in the safety of the trees, a leopard's greatest enemy may well be another leopard. Once the hunting work is done, this feline must remain alert to the arrival of unwanted visitors to its domain. With more than 500,000 of its congeners inhabiting the African savanna, the incursions of outsiders, rather than being a surprise, are routine. When two of these colossal beasts meet on the battlefield, the air becomes tense. Mammals run in terror, and birds take flight so as not to witness such an act of savagery, or worse, become collateral damage. Duels between leopards are hand-to-hand combat, where each feline, using its sharp claws and powerful bite, tries to disembowel its adversary. When two beasts of such ferocity collide in a battle to the death, the fight can last for hours. In the solitary world of these felines, the trigger for confrontations is usually a substantial prey, or the right to mate with a beautiful female. After hours of fierce combat, one of the two often walks away from the arena, often with major injuries and their honor on the floor. In the other corner, the triumphant one stands as a dominant male, and feeling immortal, he will continue to spread his terror in the savannah, keeping his territory free of invaders and devouring gigantic prey. From the plots of the wild leopard, a few miles to the south, lies in a large herd one of the species most punished by Mother Nature by giving them the African savanna as their home. Life has not been very fair to the innocent gazelles by placing them in the middle of this merciless ecosystem, where, in addition, they are one of the favorite dishes of the big cats that terrorize this animal kingdom. For gazelles, being in the sights of countless predators is a nightmare come true, from which they can only protect themselves by living in large groups of up to dozens of individuals. Living in herds ensures that these mammals are able to be alert 24 hours a day, because of course, 100 eyes are better than 2. Despite this, either as a survival mechanism or because of the insomnia caused by being in the sights of thousands of predators, gazelles are used to sleeping no more than 1 hour a day, and in periods of no more than 5 minutes. This makes the herd alert to any movement that may look suspicious in the grasslands. As soon as the sun rises, and in the hope that lions, cheetahs, and other predators will remain under the shelter of Morpheus, the gazelles begin their foraging journey. Here, grasses, leaves, seeds, shrubs, and acacias are the target of these professional pruners. During the summer, which surprisingly is the wettest season in the savanna, these herbivores have thousands of kilometers covered with succulent grasses to devour, so they only need to walk a few meters to find food. However, these infinite green fields that seem to be a gift from heaven, in just seconds can be stained red. Just as gazelles and other ungulates find their sustenance in these grasslands, many of those attending this event will meet their final fate at the hands of relentless predators. While these mammals enjoy their feast of grasses, lions, cheetahs, leopards, and hyenas lurk in the shadows waiting for their chance to attack. In a show of mercy, Mother Nature endowed gazelles with incredible skills as sprinters. These helpless runners are able to reach speeds of up to 90 kilometers per hour in just a few seconds, which takes them away from most predators in the blink of an eye. However, the hunters are cunning, and knowing that in the open they don't stand a chance against these speeders, they plan their ambush meticulously. Here, the surprise factor becomes key to succeed, and end up with a juicy gazelle in their teeth. As soon as they see that something is wrong, the herds of gazelles don't think twice and scatter across the plain. The last to react are usually the ones that get the prize of having a voracious feline on their tail. Although, thanks to their speed, gazelles most of the time manage to escape unharmed from their tormentors. For carnivores, persistence is the key, and they can carry out several attacks during the day. This ensures that sooner or later an innocent victim will fall into their clutches. After a long day escaping from becoming dinner for predators, although gazelles are not used to drinking water, a sip of this refreshing liquid doesn't hurt when you've been running all day under the harsh African sun. However, in savanna life, there is no room for rest, or at least, not when you are a small prey. From what seemed like a peaceful wetland emerged the ruthless African crocodiles, who would literally kill for just a taste of a gazelle's juicy flesh. Seeing how their herd is getting smaller and smaller, the gazelles have no choice but to continue their life on the wild plains. It may not be an easy life, but it is the one they have to live. Just as the African savanna is home to small and docile herbivores, such as the peaceful gazelles upstream, in the same tributary where the bloodthirsty crocodiles enjoy their meal, the majestic hippopotamuses emerge from the calm waters. These gigantic mammals, weighing more than 4 tons and up to 5 meters in length, are no less than the third largest species of land animals, behind only elephants and the indomitable black rhinoceros, making it clear that crocodiles are not the only dominant species of the savanna waterways. Hippos spend their days cruising placidly through these tributaries, often only showing their eyes above the surface. Although these giants, because of their aquatic habitat, seem to be expert swimmers, the truth is that the hippopotamus's abilities in the water are more than questionable. To begin with, this mammal does not even know how to swim or float, let alone breathe underwater. To counteract their shortcomings, hippos usually walk by resting their huge feet on the river bottom. And if the current plays a trick on them by dragging them into deep areas, they can always hold their breath for periods of up to 5 minutes, just long enough to return to their quiet corner of the river. Unlike sleepless gazelles, which can't even sleep a wink during the day, hippos are capable of sleeping up to 10 hours during the night, as well as taking 3-hour naps throughout the day. Their colossal and intimidating size allows them the luxury of such placid breaks, even in the midst of this wild ecosystem plagued by predators. Of course, for these mammals, if you have comfortable and refreshing wetlands under your domain, it makes no sense for you to leave them to take a nap. Hippos have a peculiar habit of sleeping in the water, as they have a sophisticated unconscious reflex that allows them to stay afloat. After a restful sleep, and when the sun begins to set on the horizon, these giants come out to look for something to eat. Although their gigantic tusks of up to 50 centimeters, which crown a bite 3 times stronger than that of the lion, lead one to suspect that this is a voracious carnivore, which only waits for the right moment to disembowel its prey. The hippopotamuses do not do this, preferring to eat a 100% vegetarian diet. As good herbivores, they devour a wide variety of grasses, leaves, roots, and even fruits. Of course, as the third largest terrestrial species in the animal kingdom, just a few leaves are not enough to fill the stomach of this giant. An adult hippopotamus is capable of devouring up to 50 kilograms of grasses per day, so this task usually takes up a good part of its routine. The nocturnal feeding habits of the hippopotamus, far from being a measure to avoid large predators, are part of its skincare routine. Despite having a skin of more than 5 centimeters, which protects it from any bite or scratch, this thick armor is excessively sensitive to the sun's rays. With this in mind, and fleeing the savage African sun, they opt to stay in the water or mud during the day, and go out hunting for grass at night. The same skin that forces these aquatic mammals to protect themselves from the peaks of the sun is also what keeps them off the radar of most of the, feared by many, wild species that might see the hippo as an unlimited source of food, such as lions, or even ferocious crocodiles. Except for rare encounters when the kings of the plains launch coordinated attacks with numerous felines, hippos need not fear becoming prey to a predator. However, this does not mean that their life will be easy, swimming in refreshing waters and tasting abundant grasses during the night. Although hippos tend to live in large herds of up to 200 individuals, these groups are often a testosterone crop, where fights are as numerous as they are deadly. Usually the flame that lights the fuse is competition for herd dominance, or the right to court a female. During fights, These large beasts bang their huge heads, ram their sturdy bodies, and attack each other with their sharp fangs. The roars, grunts, and other types of vocalizations cannot be absent either, as everyone around the river must be aware of the ferocity of the contenders in the dispute. After this bloody battle in which anything goes, one of the males is often heavily wounded, and may even pass on to the afterlife. For his part, the winner has demonstrated his strength and courage to the herd, so that, at least for a while, no other animal will dare to question the leader's authority. While the feared hippopotamuses wage their battles in the waters, hundreds of kilometers inland in the savannah, the meerkats, avoiding violence as much as possible, prefer to live in a peaceful community, protecting themselves in their elaborate burrows. While species such as the warthog see in any hole in the ground a comfortable refuge from the inclemency of savanna predators, these mongooses build a whole complex of tunnels capable of resisting even the most inclement attack. When you are a small mammal weighing less than 800 grams, and your habitat is one of the regions with the highest density of predators in the world, you need a good shelter to keep you out of the reach of those beasts that see you as a light meal. Survival measures taken by the small meerkats to gain a foothold in their inhospitable habitat include living in community. In a network of burrows, up to 40 of these small but efficient mammals coexist, each one fulfilling a vital function for the herd. Unlike the huge hippopotamuses, meerkats prefer to go out in search of food during the day and take refuge in their comfortable burrows when the sun leaves the plains. Although these little guys look like typical herbivores that won't spare any fresh leaves or juicy berries that get in their way, they have an undeniable love of meat. Of course, not even hundreds of these tiny mammals could hunt down a giant wildebeest or even a small gazelle. So meerkats are more likely to be the terror of insects, spiders, centipedes, small reptiles, and even unsuspecting birds. During these daytime forays through the vegetation, meerkats will devour anything that comes their way, as long as what they find does not devour them first. When the herd goes hunting, they always delegate to one member the vital task of acting as a sentry, alerting the rest of the herd that a threat is coming. Usually the main enemies of the herd are the martial eagles, fierce matriarchs of the sky that, in just seconds, terrorize from the heights and swoop down on the most unwary members of the group. To reduce the number of victims, the sentinel must be on the lookout for any threat that appears from above. However, the sentinel should not neglect the surroundings of the herd's territory, as these can also hide their surprises. For the jackal, when the meerkats go hunting, it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. That is, of course, as long as it is stealthy enough to surprise the agile mongooses. If the sentry raises the alarm in time with a high-pitched squeal, all the little ones will run to the safety of their home in seconds. But tactical retreats are not the only strategy meerkats have in the face of a predator's incursion into the vicinity of their den. When a member of the herd is hit by an invader, in a show of companionship and ferocity, the meerkats will appear out of nowhere and surround the aggressor, adopting an upright position to appear larger. With the adrenaline of the moment and feeling surrounded, in many occasions even the most ferocious predators are clouded in their minds and prefer to flee from the place. After this demonstration of strength and unity, the meerkats return to the safety of their home, where they will spend the night sheltered from the acts of savagery that occur when darkness takes over the savannah. In those hours when darkness covers the savage African savanna, it seems that all vestige of mercy disappears, and predators take advantage of the darkness to carry out their cruelest acts. At dawn, when the sun once again illuminates the plain, the evidence of the horror experienced by certain species is revealed. While there are no witnesses, the full stomachs of the kings of the savannah make them prime suspects, and because of their known habit of hunting in the wee hours of the morning, the evidence leads directly to them. However, in this lawless land, these big cats have license to display their savagery against basically everyone in their kingdom without facing the slightest consequence. Being part of royalty by birth, lions stand at the top of the food chain, inflicting terror on all that stand in their way, and demonstrating their power as the dominant species in what perhaps in another reality could be a peaceful paradise. If escaping from a ferocious lion is a complex task in itself, getting out alive from the siege of a whole pride is an odyssey of unimaginable proportions. In many cases, the wild inhabitants of the savannah, finding themselves surrounded, are not even willing to prolong their agony and see their days come to an end at the hands of these ferocious felines. Dominating vast territories of up to 300 square kilometers, the large lion prides tend to stay close to the numerous herds that roam the savannah following the grassy fields. Where antelopes, zebras, wildebeest, buffalo, and other large ungulates see miles of rich grass, they see a green tablecloth where a hearty meal is served. Since the dominant male's main task is to protect the pride from invaders, the females are the ones who must bring dinner. Although this is an impressive display of machismo, the lionesses have no objection, as they are all experts in the hunt, and as long as the male does his job of guarding the territory, they will do their part. When groups of lionesses go hunting, no species is safe. Of course, given the voracious appetite of these felines and the size of the pride, large prey will always be preferred. That's when it's not at all a good idea to be a wildebeest grazing nonchalantly in the territory of a hungry herd of felines. Despite being a killing machine, the lionesses do not see brute force as the way to get their dinner. These coordinated strategists, even hours before their lethal attack, plan every move, closing off any chance of escape. The lionesses approach stealthily, with slow, calculated movements so as not to alert the herds of their cruel intentions. Approaching their target from several flanks, with a fast run, they give the signal to start the chase, which sows panic in the wildebeests. In the mess of battle, there is always a cuckold who ends up being left behind, and pays dearly for his carelessness. Out of nowhere, a savage lioness weighing over 100 kilograms appears and pounces directly on his neck, holding on with her sharp claws. While flailing wildly, she may manage to escape from the feline. The rest of the hunting team quickly appears on the scene, and one after the other they launch their merciless bite at the hapless wildebeest. The technique most commonly used by these expert hunters to eviscerate their prey is usually a direct bite to the neck, which suffocates the victim in minutes, bringing a gigantic wildebeest to the table. Although females have done the hard work of locating, laying siege to, and attacking prey, in the world of lions, hierarchy comes first. With the food served on a silver platter, the alpha simply congratulates the slayers. Leaving aside that of women and children first, he asserts his position of dominance to sit in the best seat at the feast and begin the banquet. After the male is satisfied, having taken the best cuts of meat, it is the turn of the hard-working lionesses, who will finally reap the fruits of their hard work. Last and least in the hierarchy of these felines are the cubs, which will take the leftovers of the prey. Once this succulent and not at all vegetarian feast is over, the herd usually lies down in the shade to rest. The felines' full bellies are a clear sign that the females have fulfilled, and more than fulfilled, their task of being the providers of the household. After having consumed up to 7 kilograms of meat, it is best that the dominant male has recharged all his strength, because in the distance, an outsider can be glimpsed who is about to test his reign and shake the herd with a coup d'etat. Ignoring any warning signs in the form of roars and body postures, the invader knows exactly what it has come for and has no qualms about hiding it. By challenging the alpha, a fierce fight for the throne of the savannah begins, where only one feline will prevail. Here, the males use their razor-sharp claws to inflict as much damage as possible on their rival, while their powerful jaws, without any detours, aim for the neck. After a long struggle, it seems that the outsider is on the verge of striking a blow on the table and declaring the end of the old reign to establish his own monarchy. After an insatiable struggle, vultures begin to circle the sky as a premonition of what lies ahead for the fallen king. The younger and stronger dictator ends the fight and proclaims the beginning of his tyranny. As is about to become apparent, the establishment of the new regime will by no means be peaceful. The new blatant alpha needs to extend his lineage in the herd, and there is no other way to ensure that the females come into heat than by getting rid of the cubs. The lionesses that have already lived through this transition period and know what is coming try to hide their cubs, keeping them away from the pride. However, the alpha does not mince his words and imposes his will by force, wiping out the offspring of his predecessor and bringing the females into heat. Crude though it may be, it is nature at its purest, and the beginning of a new period for the herd. Although the male today is the lord and master of the savannah, life in the wild is cruel, and time is unforgiving. Just as today he founded his kingdom based on terror and savagery, in a few years, a young and ferocious feline will come to challenge his dominions, and he will show no mercy to him or his offspring. In the kingdom of the lions, an eye for an eye is a law. With a pride under construction going through a very tough period, one of the first challenges the lions will have to face is the siege of their greatest enemies. Appearing on the plains with their macabre laughter, hyenas are the torment of the kings of the savannah. It is almost an unwritten rule that where there is a pride of lions with prey, there will be the savage hyenas to claim their share, for they are professional scavengers. While they have an unenviable appearance and somewhat resemble canines in fact, these mammals are more closely related to felines, so they have more in common with their enemies than they think. Contrary to the royalty of the African savannah, where the alpha male guides the destiny of the herd, in the hyena world, the matriarch is the one who leads the clan of up to 100 hyenas. Although the alpha position has its advantages in terms of access to food and mating rights, leading such a large group often brings its challenges. Applicants for this coveted position never fail to show up, so the alpha must prove her worth by intimidation. For the dominant hyena, it is crucial to maintain control of the clan, because if all goes well, her young offspring will become her successor, establishing a full-fledged hereditary monarchy. Although hyenas have a well-known reputation as scavengers and lion-eaters, the truth is that these carnivores have no qualms about being hunters to bring food to the clan. Of course, when these discredited scavengers go hunting, the whole group usually goes along. Like their feline antagonists, lions, they are brilliant strategists, often stalking large herds of impala, zebra, buffalo, and wildebeest. Although capable of devising complex attacks taking advantage of the relief of the terrain, or attacking from different flanks, with such a large army, hyenas often opt for brute force as a mechanism to subdue their target. Contrary to felines, they do not use their claws to attack their prey, using only their lethal bite capable of shattering bones with frightening ease. With dozens of ferocious mammals pouncing on the terrified prey, the prey's future has been doomed since the beginning of the hunt. After the coup de grace, the hyenas are a bit more democratic, or rather, anarchic, when it comes to the distribution of food. It's quite simple. Whoever gets there first gets the spoils. Even though these atrocious hunters are capable of preying on a wide variety of species with so many mouths to feed, the clans prefer larger prey because there is enough for everyone. Sometimes when the booty is substantial, and the members of the clan are satisfied, the hyenas, imitating the habit of the wild leopard, ask for the leftovers to take with them. This time, of course, not on the trees, for these hunters know nothing of climbing. When Mother Nature has been generous with food, hyenas take the leftovers for later to the comfort of their burrows, usually a hole left by another species. Although hyenas demonstrate the ability to be self-sustaining and even hunt large ungulates to gorging, when a pride of lions has captured prey, these carnivores will not hesitate to take advantage of a meal at such low cost. In these cases, the savanna is the scene of major disturbances between large groups of predators, with the hyenas wanting to take a juicy commission of the prey. What the war propaganda of the kings of the savanna has taken care to hide is that, in fact, most of the time, it is the felines that invade the territory of the hyenas in search of a piece, or, if they are allowed, the prey in its entirety. Of course, these fierce warriors will not give up what is theirs without a fight. And this is when another of the savanna's hotbeds of violence ignites. Despite the countless casualties in a struggle that has been going on for millennia, if one thing is certain, it is that peace is not an option, for neither side will submit. Often the sticking point that sparks the battle between these carnivores is the right to ownership of a majestic African buffalo. However, these horned giants weighing up to 1,000 kilograms have proven to be much more than just prey on the menu of savage predators. Being a member of the prestigious club of the Big Five of Africa, along with the lion, elephant, leopard, and rhinoceros, the buffalo can rub shoulders with the most majestic beasts of the inhospitable savanna. Like other large herbivores, the African buffalo usually roam in numerous groups in search of areas rich in vegetation where they can feed their huge bodies. Unlike the slightly similar wildebeest, these giants are not migratory, having a relatively established habitat. However, if access to water and vegetation becomes scarce, they will have no objection to seek a better life in new destinations. Like other giant residents of the savanna, buffalo's large size places them out of reach of most predators, so they can lead an elusive life by staying away from voracious confrontations. However, when prey becomes scarce and a large herd of buffalo crosses the path of the wild hunters, they will not hesitate to venture into such a feat. With a prey of such size, just one buffalo can mean several days' worth of food for a whole pride of lions. The reckless carnivores that dare to embark on the hunt for the colossal buffaloes are usually crocodiles, hyenas, and of course, the kings of the savanna. Although the predators have proven their mettle by subduing countless prey and have struck terror into thousands of ungulates, these horned giants with pitch-black fur are about to prove that they will not be easy prey. Despite their mostly calm temperament, these huge mammals will not allow themselves to be subdued without resistance. Aware that they inhabit an ecosystem plagued by predators, the herds tend to move in an organized formation in which the larger, stronger males are positioned at the edges of the group, while the calves and females are positioned in the interior, where they are out of reach of wild hunters. While this defensive formation may make it difficult for carnivores, who, ignoring all logic, want to make them part of their diet, the magic happens when buffalo move from defense to offense. After withstanding the first feline attacks, the formation breaks up, and the giant buffaloes emerge with their sharp horns to charge their pursuers. In these counterattacks, predators become prey, and both lions and hyenas flee in panic because just the touch of one of these giants can instantly destroy both the felines and the famous scavengers. After such a demonstration of power, where the predators probably learned a lesson, the unharmed buffalo head for a sip near the available wetlands in the area. Since ungulates are aware that these waters are infested with crocodiles, they will always try to be cautious, exposing themselves as little as possible. However, if a savage reptile messes with one of the members of the herd, the whole group will immediately react with violence as a first option. Not even the armored crocodiles are exempt from being rammed by the sharp horns of these giants. And if that's not enough, African buffaloes will always have a big hoof that can go right over the skull of the water masters of the savannah. Although members of large herds most of the time stay away from the voracious appetite of predators, some ungulates that prefer a solitary life may fall prey to these insatiable carnivores. Similarly, while their defensive strategy is often impregnable to predator attacks, in savanna wildlife, nothing is set in stone. In many cases, calves and sick specimens end up as a pitiful casualty, from which even dozens of predators will feast. As the buffalo giants resist against the siege of countless predators, far away, an insatiable feline watches from a distance for its next prey. The cheetah, cold and calculating, stalks quiet gazelles as they graze, knowing that this will probably be the last meal for one of them. Using its prodigious eyesight, this feline is able to spot its prey at very long distances, giving it enough time to plan its attack. To have the surprise factor on its side, the hunter has a natural camouflage that makes it disappear among the vegetation of the savanna. Since this less robust but more agile feline has decided to lead a solitary life, when food is missing from the table, standing cross-legged waiting for the females to bring food is not an option. With the cheetah sneaking up on them, the gazelles are about to discover that no matter how fast they are, they can never escape the world's fastest land mammal. The starting signal sounds and the voracious predator rushes at full speed against the terrified gazelle. It can accelerate from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in just 3 seconds in the blink of an eye, reaching astonishing speeds that put the helpless gazelles within reach of its claws. With a fleeting sprint of no more than a minute, it's all over for the unfortunate prey, who will become a nutritious meal for this ruthless and highly efficient lone hunter. However, the cheetah should not claim victory until the meal is in its stomach. Knowing that thefts are on the increase in the savanna, after capturing an appetizing gazelle, the cheetah quickly puts all the prey to go and drags it to a shady hideout, where it can eat in peace without scavengers lurking. With no herd to back them up, after a successful hunt, cheetahs are fragile targets for the hyena clans, who, living up to their reputation as scavengers, will strip the feline of its prey and share the spoils. Despite their slight physical resemblance, one of the cheetah's greatest tormentors comes in the form of a close relative, the leopard. While such confrontations are rare, as the felines themselves prefer to keep the savanna free of such ferocity, when the less robust cheetahs have managed to capture prey, and their ferocious cousins spot such an affordable meal, they will not hesitate to impose their will through violence by attacking even the tiniest of cats. Since losing a meal is not a luxury that can often be afforded, the feline will not give up what is his without a fight. And nature gives us another of those fights where the savagery and ferocity of the inhabitants of the African savanna is shown. Given the cheetah's slight build, many bullies are in the habit of besieging it to take advantage of the fruits of their labor. However, these same bullies think twice before getting in the way of the giant black rhino. Weighing up to 2 tons, the hook-lipped rhinoceros is one of those giants that roam the savanna. These thick-skinned, stoutly built giants, despite their intimidating appearance, spend most of their day isolated in their corner, resting and foraging for food. Leaving aside their name, black rhinoceroses, in fact, like white rhinoceroses, are gray and differ only in the shape of their lips, which in turn determines the diet of each species of these large mammals. While its white relative devours the green grasses that cover the savanna floor, the majestic black rhino prefers to browse a wide variety of trees, where of course acacias are the protagonists. While lions, hyenas, and leopards plan their hunting strategy when they see gazelles or wildebeests grazing. When these predators spot a giant rhino on the horizon, they usually prefer to avoid trouble and look for less ambitious prey. With a horn that can reach up to 5 feet in length, the idea of getting in the way of these huge beasts does not seem at all sensible. Although these horned rhinos prefer to stay away from the conflicts that abound in the savanna, they also have a somewhat reactive temperament. As soon as it notices that an invader dares to intrude on its territory, the rhinoceros will first attack and then find out. Since the plan of having a huge rhino running after them at more than 50 kilometers per hour is not at all very appealing, hyenas and lions, as well as lone hunters, prefer to leave this easily irritated giant alone. Since it often follows the path left by the numerous herds of elephants in the dense vegetation, this huge mammal is used to having encounters with the big-eared ones, which fortunately do not usually escalate. Although they often avoid what would be a clash of the titans against the huge African elephants, if there is one thing this armored beast cannot tolerate, it is that one of its fellow species dares to invade its property. To avoid unexpected visits from other rhinos, they mark their territory with urine and feces, and even leave their scent on vegetation by rubbing their bodies against trees. Should one male, ignoring the signs, wander onto the property of another, fighting is inevitable. The two giants will attack their adversary by thrusting with their robust bodies, as well as lunging with their dangerous horns. After a long confrontation, one of the two contenders usually surrenders, but not before sustaining serious injuries. The loser will have to witness how his now dominant male takes over his territory, gaining greater access to resources. Although rhinos do not face a great number of threats in their life on the savanna, the fact is that in recent years, their population has been reduced to alarming numbers. Unfortunately, the most bitter enemy of these gray giants does not come from their wild kingdom, but is represented by thousands of poachers who dare to prey on such a majestic creature. The same horn that gives this large mammal an intimidating yet captivating appearance is what has put it in the crosshairs of illegal hunting. While at the beginning of the 20th century, the rhino population was estimated at around 100,000, by the year 2024, it is estimated that there will only be around 6,500 rhinos in the wild. For African elephants, the equivalent of the coveted rhinoceros horn is their large tusks, of up to 200 kilograms. On the black market, these can sell for up to $500,000 a pair. So, in an act of inhumanity and savagery, poachers have declared a relentless war on the large herds of African elephants. Not even the big cats are spared from the scourge of human activities in what was once a virgin savanna. The fragmentation of their habitat as a result of new settlements has even managed to displace numerous lion prides, as well as solitary cheetahs, which have to seek a living in new destinations. The practice of illegal wildlife trafficking is also one of those realities that is depleting the populations of leopards, cheetahs, and even the kings of the savanna. Every year, thousands of cubs are separated from their mothers and taken away from their habitat to be sold in destinations as far away as the Middle East, where the life of these felines will never be the same again. Hyenas, another of the majestic wild species found in the African savanna, are also victims of greed, as well as of their bad reputation in popular culture. The stigmas developed around these amazing wild beasts have made them a clear hunting target for villagers and populations close to their habitat. Although animal species struggle day by day against adversity for their survival, human influence on their ecosystem is what is causing an alarming decrease in their populations, as well as the deterioration of their ecosystem. Every year, thousands of amazing wild creatures fall prey to the excessive greed of some, regardless of the damage caused to these majestic companions of the planet. Despite this bleak outlook, the good news is that Africa's wild animals are not alone. Today, there are countless initiatives that seek to promote their preservation through the creation of nature reserves and measures to prohibit the hunting of endangered species, as well as the prosecution of poachers. One of the cases that shows a small light at the end of the tunnel is that of the Salinda Reserve in Botswana. Only about 20 years ago, poachers wiped out almost all the lions in the area, sparing the lives of only 2 females. Time passed, and thanks to the support of a group of ecologists, the place was privatized and turned into a natural reserve for the protection of the felines. Today, more than 100 lions live in this wildlife oasis. This is just one sign that, with coordinated efforts, we still have time to tip the balance in favor of animal species and save them from extinction. If you have arrived here, it is because you have been amazed by the stories of ferocity, heroism, and struggle of the wild species for their survival in the African savanna. So why don't you subscribe to our channel and give us your valuable like? If you want to contribute your grain of sand to the preservation of these fantastic wild warriors, you can also share the video with your friends and thus echo these wonderful stories of the animal kingdom. See you next time with more tales of our planet's amazing wildlife.